So this is an overview of a Clear Stream system and how they are set up. So they're a little bit different in how they're made. Clear Stream, you'll have 3 tanks generally. Every state's different. So some states that don't require pump tanks or they're going into a gravity fed, they might not have a pump tank. We're just showing you the general overview of what we see in Texas. So same principle. You're going to have the sewer coming into a trash tank. The trash tank is going to be here. Then you're going to have the aerobic unit, and then you're going to have a pump tank or pump chamber, and then that's how they work. So we'll show you the nuances. On an install, also, there's rules about how far it can be from the house, and I think it's a 5-foot offset. Most guys do a little bit more than 5 feet, probably 10 feet from the house. But the rule is 5 feet, so there's always going to be an offset between where the septic is and the house is, and how far close they can install them, things like that. Now that's the rules in Texas. So on a Clear Stream, you'll see that this pipe comes in, but it doesn't go all the way through this cone, and that's where the wastewater is put in. And this cone here acts as this is the clarifying area here. So the diffuser comes in the tank, and this model is actually very accurate, and we just got this today. And there is a pipe that goes out here, and it has this little baffle here, and it's more like that. And it goes down, and you'll have a float switch as well, like this, but it's down here, and that's your alarm float. So it's a secondary alarm float. So the problem is, the only issue we have on this is these are hard to pull out. There's 2 ways there's one way they used to do it. They used to come in this tank here, and then they'd run across here on either side, and there'd be another hose that could, the hose that was coming from here would fit in, and then they would run it down the system, and the aerator would aerate down here, okay? So probably about 15 years ago, they switched where they run in with PVC and they run down. Part of the problem is, I think, was the hose kind of deteriorates after a while, and then it doesn't hold up, and it creates issues with some of the metal connections and it being a corrosive environment. So they went to a PVC setup, which doesn't degrade in the environment, which was good. But when they did that, it's hard to get this back in the system because of the way the cone is. So a lot of people think that it's just an open area. It's another reason that also people say, well, I don't see any bubbles. I don't see any bubbles going on. I don't know if my aerator's working, things of that nature. So it is working. What's happening is this tank is like this all the way around. This is a cutaway, and all the aeration's happening on this outside, so you don't see any bubbles, and you shouldn't see any bubbles. If you see bubbles in a Clear Stream in the middle, you got problems, okay? Because all the stuff is getting stirred up in here and then put into the pump tank. You're going to have shorter life on your pump. It's not correct. You should call somebody, and you might need this pump down and then have the diffuser put in the correct position. But it should not be bubbling in the middle, okay? So it'll bubble on the outside. If you open the tank and you take the lid off, and you can hear agitation going on, so that is something you can hear. When they're cleaning these out, a lot of times you don't have to remove this. We always try to move this to the side. What happens is they stick the hose in there on the pump truck, and you can get the hose right here, but you can't see on this outside. That's one thing. Generally, what we'll do is we have a hose on the truck, and what we'll do is you'll stick a hose down there with it, a water hose, and you can stick the water hose over here, and you can move it around. You have vacuum going on, so you can see solids getting pulled into it, and then it stops, and you move the hose, and you can generally get it probably 95% clean, which is good enough. So they're not you can't see as much going on in these systems as you can in some other systems. They're great though for tight spots, so they're another option you have. If the installer doesn't have a full crew, these are much easier to install than a Niatic are, just because the Niatic's pointy and you got to balance them. This can be done pretty easy as long as the ground is level underneath it and installed. So this is another system where we see problems and it's not the manufacturer, it is more the installer, where what they'll do is, on this one they can do this, they can install all these tanks at the same time. So they do it to save time. And what happens is when you install them all at the same time, you're not able to pack this dirt under here. And we've seen it where they just cover it. I mean, they just put these in the ground, connect them, and they literally just take the dirt and throw it in the hole. And you got a lot of weight and things happening here. Connections can get broke. And over time, the dirt settles. And over time, what we see is very, very common is this pipe actually will stick up in the air and it'll be all cockeyed. And you're thinking, well, what's going on there? And what's happened is that settlement has pushed on that pipe and it's pushed up so high on this, it's off center. And what's happening is the water will not drain out of this tank. So you get problems in your trash tank. So that's another reason why it's not good to dig one hole and install all the tanks. So especially not on the back end because of that, but it just leads to problems. Another thing is there's not a lot of separation left. So it's real easy to do, put the tanks together and put them close when there's no dirt on top of them. When you have a bunch of dirt on top of them and the tanks are put this close together, I mean, we've seen them really, really close. There's nothing, you can't work on the pipe from this end. A lot of times you can from this end, but it becomes very difficult to get the 4-inch pipe in there and connect them. So it becomes an issue. You want some kind of spacing between the tanks, and just in case what you're doing is you're thinking ahead, maybe in 10 years something will happen, this will break or something, you know, and you want to be able to fix this area, and that makes it much easier to do. Another thing is we're missing a chlorinator. A lot of times there's a chlorinator right here or inside the tank, and we even have little caps. There'll be a chlorinator in here that chlorinates, and in the all-in-one model we have a little show of that. But that's pretty much it. So it's another 3-tank system. Some of the things we told you is what you want to look out for. A lot of guys don't do that. A lot of guys will not dig individual holes. It does take longer, okay? And they want to save time, so they just want to dig one hole, put them in, slap them in the ground. Oh, it'll be fine. I think we've got, I'll try to find some pictures, but it's probably once a week we run into it where these pipes are jacked up and they have to be fixed. And it's not a cheap thing to do. So, and that's how we learned. We were like, what's causing this? Okay, well, you shouldn't probably install the system like that. This is how you should do it. So, just things we've learned and what we tell people to, look out for. You want all this ground really packed. So when they bury this tank, they pack the ground. So everything's compacted like it was when you dug it out. Then you can put this pipe in here and you don't have to worry about the ground settling out, and you can connect it in and you have a good solid surface. So that's a long overview of a Clear Stream septic system. I hope that explains a lot. I hope that you understand how the cone works, where this diffuser is, how to get it out. We have a video on getting these out so you can see what I'm talking about. We'll link it in the description below of us pulling it out and then trying to get it back in. That'll give you a more clear picture of how this is set up here. But remember to like and subscribe, and we're going to make some more videos.